The bloodied German shepherd limped alone through the cold Montana night, clutching his partner's police cap in his jaws. No one knew where Officer Thomas Beckett was until Scout arrived, collapsing at the station steps. The name stitched into that torn cap? Beckett's. And the footage on the dog's collar? A nightmare. Betrayal. Torture. A former friend turned criminal kingpin. What came next would shake the quiet town of Elk Ridge to its core. They say some towns are too quiet, too peaceful, like the silence is hiding something. Elk Ridge, Montana was one of those towns. Tucked between the mountains and pine trees, it looked like something out of a postcard. But even the prettiest places hold pain. Officer Thomas Beckett knew that better than anyone. He wasn't born here. He came from Denver. Big city cop, decorated, respected. The kind of man others called when things got dark. But nothing prepared him for the day cancer took his wife, Angela, his whole world. She didn't go with noise or struggle, just one long breath and then silence. And that silence never really left. He packed up everything after the funeral, transferred out, chose a town no one talked about. No lights, no noise, just trees, cold mornings, and peace. But he didn't come alone. With him came his partner, Scout, a 3-year-old German shepherd, sharp, strong, and fiercely loyal. The last connection to his old life. In Elk Ridge, people learned quickly. Beckett didn't talk much. He didn't need to. Scout was always at his side, and that was enough. The two of them answered every call, walked every beat. Meth labs in old barns, drunk fights at the bar, the usual. Nothing they couldn't handle. Then came the call that changed everything. A little girl named Lily Rowe had gone missing. 8 years old, red hair, purple backpack, freckles and a missing front tooth. Disappeared on her way home from school. The town broke. Volunteers poured out. Search teams combed the woods. Helicopters circled. But as the hours turned to days, hope began to die. Beckett didn't sleep. Scout barely rested. On the 4th day, while walking a trail near the edge of the forest, Scout stopped, nose to the wind, tail stiff. He started barking at a patch of trees near the old sawmill. Beckett followed him in, not expecting much. That's where they found it. A small hairband, purple, with a cracked unicorn charm. Scout growled. The scent was fresh. They followed him for half a mile through thick woods and broken brush. Then they found the cabin. Rotting wood, boarded windows, and a rusted truck out back. Beckett approached with caution, drew his weapon. Scout was already moving. Inside, they found Lily, shivering, scared, tied to a bed frame. The man who took her was in the kitchen, eating soup like nothing was wrong. Beckett arrested him, without a word. Scout never took his eyes off the guy. The town called them heroes. The mayor gave Beckett a medal. Local news ran the story. Dog and officer rescue missing girl in Elk Ridge. Beckett smiled politely, shook hands, and went right back to his cabin. Scout didn't care for cameras either. But Lily's mom, she brought a thank you card every week. And Lily, she asked to visit Scout every time she passed by the station. But just when things felt calm again, the next storm rolled in. It started with a whisper, an anonymous tip. A report that a local hardware store in town was more than it appeared, that it was a front for something bigger. Gun smuggling, stolen IDs, even possible human trafficking. Sheriff Daniels didn't buy it at first, until one name came up. Roger Timmons. Beckett froze when he heard it. Roger had been his partner back in Denver, a cop just like him. They'd shared squad cars, busted dealers together, bled together. But Roger had quit the force years ago, moved out to Elk Ridge before Beckett ever got there, said he wanted a simpler life. Beckett had believed him. Now, he wasn't so sure. He didn't tell anyone. He just leashed Scout and drove out to the edge of town that evening. He left a message on his phone just in case. Activated the small body cam he wore for dangerous calls. Scout sat in the passenger seat, ears alert, as they pulled up to the back of the hardware store. It was quiet. Too quiet. Roger was waiting inside, smiling like old times. Said he wanted to catch up, said they should talk like they used to. But something felt wrong. And then, before Beckett could even blink, a pipe hit the side of his head. The world spun, then turned black. When he woke up, he was tied to a chair. Scout was locked in a cage across the room, barking, growling, bleeding from a wound on his leg. The room smelled like gasoline and rust. A man Beckett didn't recognize stood in front of him, holding his badge. Roger stepped forward, voice calm like nothing had changed. He told him everything. About how he left Denver not to escape the job, but to build his own empire. How the store was just a cover. How every shipment out of the town carried weapons or people. How he knew Beckett would find out eventually, and that's why he had to end it now. They beat him hard. Fists, boots, even the butt of a rifle. Blood ran down his face, his ribs cracked. They laughed. But Scout, he never stopped barking, never stopped trying to break through the bars. Then they made a mistake. They tossed Scout outside, assuming he was too injured to matter. But they didn't know what that dog was made of. Scout crawled through the weeds, limping, bleeding, dragging one paw behind him. But in his mouth, he held something. Beckett's blood-soaked cap. He ran. For miles, past the sawmill, through the woods, across the gravel road, until finally he reached the Elk Ridge police station. Officers on the night shift stared in shock as the bloody dog collapsed at the front steps, the cap falling from his mouth. Sheriff Daniels was called immediately. He bent down, lifted the hat, and saw the name stitched inside. Thomas Beckett. Someone noticed the flashing light on the small body cam Scout still wore on his collar. They played the footage. They saw everything. Within minutes, the station was on full alert. SWAT was called. Units armed up. By sunrise, they raided the store. Gunfire broke out. One officer was hit, but they pressed forward. 4 men were arrested. Roger tried to flee. He didn't get far. Beckett was found in a back room, barely conscious, barely breathing. His face swollen, one eye shut, ribs broken. They carried him out as Scout barked from the stretcher beside him. He was alive, just barely. He was rushed to the hospital, Scout too. 3 days passed. No one knew if Beckett would make it. Then on the 4th morning, something changed. He stirred. His lips parted. His voice cracked. Scout? The nurse called Sheriff Daniels. He came rushing in, followed by the vet holding Scout, wrapped in gauze and blankets. Scout wagged his tail softly. Beckett turned his head. Hey, boy. You found help? Scout nudged his nose against Beckett's hand. Everyone in the room stood frozen, tears quietly falling. No one said a word. They didn't have to. The bond between them said everything. Weeks later, Beckett recovered. So did Scout. Slower, but steady. Roger and the others were sentenced to decades in federal prison. The operation was dismantled. The media picked it up again. Hero dog leads police to kidnapped officer. Scout the savior. Elk Ridge's bravest duo. Beckett didn't care about the headlines. He cared about the sound of claws on wooden floors again. The smell of coffee in the morning. The weight of his old badge, still scratched but shining. And most of all, the warm pressure of Scout's head resting on his lap at night. He once thought silence was all he had left. But now, in that silence, there was breath, life, loyalty, and a dog who never gave up. Not once, not ever. If this story touched your heart, don't scroll past. Hit like to honor heroes like Scout. Subscribe for more powerful true stories of loyalty, sacrifice, and courage. And share this with someone who believes in the unbreakable bond between a man and his dog. Because sometimes, a dog doesn't just save a life, he saves a soul.